Hello, thank you. Thanks for having me. So this should be a really fun panel, how to create and distribute immersive stories. I'm going to introduce our panelists, starting out with Eric Shamlin, founder of Firebringer. Jonathan Flesher, head of partnerships, Baobab Studios. Lemony Lay, co-founder of Pinta Studios. And last but not least, Aiden Ye, CEO of Veer. Thank you. All right, so create and distribute immersive stories. I think this is a great panel. There's a lot to cover here. I think we'd also like to throw in monetization as well, because I think that really completes, there's content, there's distribution, there's monetization and building a market and really turning this into a business. And so I think we're gonna add monetization and really focus, I think, on the distribution side of things as well. So we got a great panel here, really smart people, great experience. I'm gonna try and let them talk as much as possible, ask each other questions, interrupt if someone's going on too long, like the way I am now, probably. But let's kick this thing off. So I'm going to start with Jonathan. We're talking about distribution, talking about monetization. Baobab's obviously done a really great job of creating amazing stories and amazing content. How are you looking at the distribution part of the business? Where are you finding success, and kind of where do you think it's headed?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. That's something I'm intimately familiar with, since distribution and partnerships fall under me. We've been fortunate so far with our success, and what the challenge right now is that the industry is so fragmented in terms of the number of platforms, the standards, and the number and types of builds that we distribute. So we distribute everything from real-time rendered versions that are either a Unity or Unreal build on high-end headsets, to partially real-time rendered experiences, to pre-rendered experiences on mobile headsets, to things that actually show on the web 360 or even 2D. And so it's a quite challenging landscape in which to distribute immersive content. And so what we've done to date so far is try to be on every single major platform, to reach as many people as possible with our content. And that puts in burden on a content creator like Baobab Studios, because we spend so much time on packaging and creating different versions of the content. And to me, that's not really sustainable. And I look to what happened in the mobile industry when mobile phones first came out and game developers started putting out games. They had to write to, the Symbian OS. They had to write to iOS, to Android, to BlackBerry, to Windows. It was just a really difficult environment for within which they had to operate. And for me, my hope is that there is some consolidation in the platforms and some kind of rationalizations of what is a standard piece of VR content to put out there. Because right now it's very difficult.
Yeah, spent a lot of time versioning. Actually, I just realized I may have introduced you guys in different order. Can you switch chairs just so people don't have you confused by your name up here? Can you two switch? Right. Sorry. Okay, now we have this correct, just to clear up any confusion. Well, that's great. And what about at your company? You guys are making great content. How are you looking at distributing? How are you looking at monetizing? Does the same friction apply to what you guys are doing? Are you experiencing that here in China?
Yeah, I think this almost the same with Baobab Studio you face too. And sorry, I want to explain more clearly. I will use Chinese, and I say to Eddie because I think they have the translators out of this room, so I use Chinese to explain more clearly. 就是还是我觉得还是需要更清晰的来介绍一下这件事儿。就是其实我们现在整体上把发行这块儿在我们这个公司的话，我们看到还是整体大概3个大的板块。一块呢是 the keywords are used in English. The one is 就是比较重要的一块呢，其实是线上发行、线下发行这2个大的板块。而线上发行呢，其实又包括了这个 像视频的平台这种 video 的版本，然后还有一些这个 real time 的 engine 的版本的话，这样其实看起来我们又分成了这个视频网站呢，包括 YouTube， 包括 VER 是这些的视频网站。同时呢，就是在这个引擎的版本主要包括 Steam 啊、Oculus 这些平台上。然后线下的其实慢慢的越来越多的这个我们看到的线下的体验店，这分布在全球的线下体验店也慢慢的起步。其实国内的话，其实也有几家公司，我们也在合作的几家公司，也越做越好，开始有更多的这个可能合作的可能性。然后呢，所以其实整体从线上的视频平台、线上的这个执行文件的平台，然后包括线下的这些平台，看起来也越来越多。但是其实，在 VR 行业，我们遇到一个现实，就是这些整体，这刚才有提到，就是还是太区块化、太零碎了，也没有一个比较合适的一个中间机构去对所有的平台，这样导致其实整体的收入规模的话还是会比较小的。另外，其实刚才另外一个问题的话，就是对于我们这样的公司，其实都需要找到一个属于自己的商业模式。我们其实，在第一个项目石梦老人上面，我们去做了很多的尝试。其实我把整体的商业收入划成了3个大的板块，其实跟内容行业是相似的。第一板块呢是这个版权发行，第二板块呢是广告收入，第三板块呢是衍生价值。在石梦老人里头，我快速介绍一下，我们的石梦老人里头有一块广告牌，其实我们做了招商，然后呢，其实也卖给了一个房地产公司一定的价钱，其实 cover 掉我们部分的成本。第二块呢，其实我们做了23种商品的衍生，当时跟淘宝众筹一起合作，然后最终我们其实也拿到了不错的销售。比方说一个雨伞，我们其实到今天为止已经销售了将近5万把出去，而每销售的那一把我们都会拿到分账。所以整体上来说，我们把商业模式，就是这个整体收入，大概看成了这3个板块来解决我们相应的这些问题。Something like that.
Yeah, it's very hard to ask you a follow-up question. I'm going to take your word for it, though. I think you did really well in that answer. So I want to ask Eric a question about financing. Obviously, a very important part of the model. With your history at Secret Location and now at Firebringer, where have you seen success from a financing perspective? And I know a lot of those areas are sort of drying up, and where do you possibly see things headed to?
No, it's a great question. That's actually what I've probably spent the majority of the last few years doing. Financing, I also have to always flag that financing is different than revenue, which a lot of companies, like a lot of the people think it's paid for, and then they're done, and no, then you go make money, and that's the missing piece right now. Yeah. A lot of companies, I feel like, confuse the two, production financing versus actual revenue. In terms of actually getting a project financed, I think a lot of us can be rather dismissive of it, but I think the platforms themselves have been very generous in sort of astroturfing the industry. It's Oculus, Google, Samsungs of the world have been very generous to the ecosystem, but we can't expect them to astroturf the industry forever, yeah. And a lot of that money is kind of drying up, or their priorities have shifted, so it's not quite as reliable as it may have been a couple years ago. In a lot of the projects that I've been involved with, we kind of approached it as kind of an independent film finance model, yep. Where it's cobbling together of various financing subsidies. A lot of it's maybe government financing or international co-pros.
It's just hard to repeat.
Yeah,
it's
a lot of bespoke. All right, you crafted it this way this time, but you can't do it for another project next time. So, but it gets the project together, and again, gets your financing and you get your project out there. But then the bigger question is, well, then how do you make money with it now? Because I think a lot of us are managing to cobble that financing together, but we're now having to figure out is where the market actually is. Because the market's what's going to justify future financing, yes. Ultimately. And so you need that to be a virtuous cycle.
Yes. Thank you. Good answer. So, Aiden, I think it would be helpful for you to explain a little bit about what your company does. It's a little different than, I think, the way that we're in the industry, the way you're looking at both tools and technology and content and distribution. Like, maybe you could describe that in sort of context of distributing and financing.
Thanks. I actually did a workshop earlier yesterday in the morning basically, I think this panel is great fit for what we've been doing, because VR is basically defined as a platform doing two things. One, we help people create VR content with the technologies we built. Second is we help the creator, no matter it's existing creators or new creators who just start doing VR, to distribute their content. We started with the second one. We've been growing into the largest 360 video distribution site about a year ago, and we upgraded the platform to support more format, including 360 photos. And right now we are building this interactive engine where everyone can quickly create content. So if you're looking at what VR has been doing, we have a pyramid of creator users. Top of the pyramid are premium creator like you guys, providing the best, highest quality content, paid content. And then there is this large volume of actually hundreds of thousands of creators across over 150 countries on the platform already, are professional creators working for commercial business use cases, working for digital marketing, real estate, education, automobile, different industries. And then there are a long tail of creators who are either semi-pro or hobbyist who just start to pick up skill sets to learn VR. We are broader in spectrum, but we are catering to the needs of different creators on the platform.
And how are you looking at monetizing that platform? And what does the marketplace look like? Is there transactional revenue? How does that look?
Yeah, exactly. I think monetization is the most asked question in VR industry today. If you look at the companies and the studios creating and uploading content on VR, a number is about 60% of all the contents are business related. So people are actually already monetizing from the business and brands who are paying them. So today, the creators on VR are actually getting more money from their clients instead of directly from the consumers. And I believe that situation is going to continue for a bit longer, because right now the number of headsets and HMDs are still limited, but I think that will change over time.
That's interesting. And we're talking a lot about VR. I think, if you watched Ted's talk today, it was interesting to talk about the curve and how he thinks we're headed to an AR and a spatial world. Curious how everyone up here is thinking of that, considering we're all sort of started in the VR space, and now I'm sure all of us are not necessarily pivoting, but at least really exploring AR and spatial. And so maybe, Jonathan, I'll turn it over to you to talk about how you're looking things.
Well, we look at it as one continuum. Where we develop content, we develop it for immersive media. And to us, that spans virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, XR, if you will. And so it's kind of the frameless storytelling. By frame, I mean the traditional filmmakers' frame or lens that they look through with the camera for film and television. And so we really focus on telling a strong narrative with characters that you can develop an emotional connection in. To us, AR is very interesting because it, in many ways, is kind of that next hot thing, but also has the potential to be a much larger industry. But we kind of view it as just an extension of an expansion of VR. And so we're excited for it, but it's still very early days. If you go to the Augmented World Expo, which just occurred down in Silicon Valley this past month, there were tons of AR headsets from China and from Western companies. And it was really cool to see all the innovation going on there, but it still feels very much like prototypes out there. You're an even farther kind of distance from mass market adoption from a consumer standpoint, because we focus on consumer entertainment media. That's what we care about. We're farther from that point. And so for me, like to bring it full circle back to the monetization question, the monetization, I agree very much with Eric, is that right now it's cobbled together. You just have to be scrappy, whether you raise project from an IP holder to pay for something, a business, an advertiser, or just a bunch of different funders, or you self-fund. You're just being scrappy until you have mass adoption. And so mass adoption of the headsets is what's going to drive real kind of economics on this. And so if I'm to put on my forecasting hat, VR is a little closer in my mind to mass adoption, and then AR is a little farther out. So while it's super interesting to us, it struggles with some of the same issues that VR deals with in terms of adoption.
Yeah.
It's further back on the curve.
Can you please tell me when mass adoption is going to happen?
It's going to be March 27th of 2022.
All right, mark that down. Futurist, Jonathan, the futurist here. Lemony, I guess the same question for you. How are you thinking about augmented reality and storytelling in a spatial environment?
Okay. It's really changed. It's really industry change. 对于我们来讲的话，其实在一个创作内容的公司来说，媒体只是其中的选择的一个方向。其实就像我们猎山市，其实大家看到神农 Test Evolution 的展映的版本的话，其实前段时间我们也和了2个合作伙伴一起做了 AR 的这个商业的版本，然后在这个版本里头，我们也用了神农这个角色的核心去阐述他们的品牌核心，然后呢，同时我们又投放到像支付宝、这个京东这样的平台，然后这个 AR 的这个东西发挥了它自己应该有的内容带曝光的商业价值。在这个商业价值里头呢，它其实又是一个帮助我们外延了我们自己神农这个故事的这个外延。所以说，其实从我们是内容创作的角度上来说，它其实确实是像 Jonathan 他提到的，它确实是一个非常简单直白的一种媒介罢了。然后所以说，其实，在我们自己的创作过程中的话，我们自己其实思考了很多，就关于到底选用哪种媒体、哪种媒介。其实这样 VR 它创造的是一个完全虚拟的一个空间，我们如何区别于传统的平面视频，去让你得到更多的体验？其实现在全球的开发者都有很多自己的答案，比方说有些是通过更富有沉浸感的视觉的东西来做，比方说我们神农做了这个幻境的这种方式，也比方说有一些团队制作了很多像人工智能的方式去让跟角色有很多自己的这个互动，然后也有说，比方说有些方法是让这个角色跟你的这个跟你自己的相关的这个整体的内容产生了一些有趣的这个相关的有意思的外延的一些互动罢了。所以其实我们自己来思考这个问题来看的话，就回到原点，我们到底想创造什么样的一个故事？就如果这个故事其实它适合于用平面的版本，它的故事是传递一种情绪，它是叙事一个你想做的一个叙事的结构，那我们可能会选择更传统的这种视觉方式。而有一天我们选择的东西是需要有更有沉浸感、更有其他的维度来让大家感受到了这样的一个角色或者这个故事给你带来的情绪的情况下，我们可能就会选择 VR 这种媒体，增加了更多维的感受来做。刚才也说到这个 AR 这个部分。我们其实现在也在策划一个项目，这个项目的话，也是我们会把我们的主体的场景会一部分移植到 AR 的环境中，让大家感觉到这个角色其实实实在在的发生在你的身边，发生在你的周围，让他觉得其实跟他的关系很近，你可以随时触碰到他，甚至在你想起来他的时候，就可以通过手机看到他，与他产生有趣的这小小的故事。就这些其实也是根据我们在最初的时候产生剧本创作的这个过程中，最初这个定位有直接关系的。所以说，其实回到我们自己做内容生产者这个团队的本身来说，我们其实在媒体这个本身上来看是不选的，而所有的媒体的展示只是我们自己想做的这个核心故事的一个外延，而这个外延取决了这个媒体是不是我们去选用它，而大家每个媒体都会有自己非常有趣的特点。
Yeah, that totally makes sense, and it's a question I think fundamentally everyone has to ask when you're telling a story. I mean, there's a lot of stories, frankly, in a lot of VR projects that didn't necessarily need to be VR projects. I think you've maybe seen less of that now because people are just being more intentional. But I think that's a really good way to look at the market. I think what Eddie's done a really great job with this festival is crossing cultures, crossing boundaries, bringing a bunch of different people together. And I'm curious how the folks in China are looking at the States and ways to work together to build bigger businesses, to co-finance, co-produce, co-distribute, how you're looking at working together. And the same for my American friends, how you're looking at China as a market for opportunity, whether it's financing or distribution or otherwise. So maybe you guys want to start, Jonathan or Eric, do you want to start?
Sure. I mean, we consider China an incredibly important market. I come from the video game industry, and it's kind of, there's China, and then there's the rest of the world. It's big enough as a standalone market that's comparable to Western size. So we consider it an incredibly important market, so much so that we've taken investment from Horizons Ventures out of Hong Kong, Shanghai Media Group, China Rock, Youku's Global Media Fund. We are very, very focused on this market, and that spans pretty much everything from HMDs to mobile devices, and then a lot of the technology is built here. You see Xiaomi coming out with the Oculus Go. That's what it is, and it's branded as their own headset here. And so we focus a lot on this market, and we think there is the ability to create cross-cultural content or content that works in all markets. And that's what we focus on in terms of our animations, is to make it a universally appealing story. So yes, China is incredibly important to us.
Yeah. So you look at projects in the Pixar way from 8 to 80, sort of entertaining the large
Correct.
market. Yeah.
The other point that I want to add on is just from the data of the VR's platform content consumption. China is actually very active, but one very interesting fact we figure out is that the cross-culture and cross-nation consumption of VR is much higher and better than other type of media. And that to us is because of the nature of the media itself. Different from audio and podcast or text, it's easier to consume because the content itself is more language and culture agnostic. The users on VR from China are consuming content from US, from India, same as users on VR from Japan consuming it from Korea and other countries. And we're seeing people comment and share and likes content from other countries, and that's very, very interesting. The other thing that I think is very important is the China is where I think almost over 90% of all the VR hardwares are made, and we as a platform partner with almost all the brands of VR cameras as well as VR headsets, global-wide, but most of them are in China, and we're seeing increasing amount of new brands and high-quality headsets getting out from China. So I think strategically it's probably the most important part for all the VR industry and ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree. I just spilled my water. Okay, I'm back.
Sort of just jumping in, I think, for me, I think I just find the Chinese appetite or enthusiasm for VR pretty amazing. I think so far you mentioned most of the hardware is manufactured here. I think the consumer has already responded very positively to it here. The maker community is very active here, and I just feel like I'm a big believer that China will very much lead this medium, or the adoption of this medium, and the proliferation and the professionalization of this medium. So I feel like as a maker and as a studio, you have to be here, even if you're in the States. I think it's still early in both markets, and so everybody's trying to figure out what the scramble is, how where the money's actually going to come from. But I think the enthusiasm and just the scale at which things work here is pretty amazing. And so to be a part of that and just get in early and make the partnerships has been kind of our strategy.
Yeah. And have you had success distributing content in the States and elsewhere? And how are you looking at broadening that market and that relationship?
其实就是针对石墨老人的来看的话，其实我们客观来说，就是这是一个非常现实。我其实想把刚才那个问题稍微尖锐一会儿来说一下。就其实我们发现石墨老人真正的在线上的收入部分，基本上都来自于海外。就其实我们主体收入其实都来自于 Steam 这个平台。所以其实这个事情是让我们还是在逐步的反思，我们其实到底是目标是在中国市场还是全球化的市场？但其实现在 VR 的话是比较容易，不像影视的话有更多的 culture shock 在里面。所以说，其实我们可能很早就定义是在全球化的市场里头来。这样其实就是针对这件事情的话，我们其实会在作为一个纯内容创业者的话，其实来看。 中国其实，在内容创业的本身，其实上次也是在威尼斯电影节跟很多人有聊过。其实中国其实大家的这个制作或者是产业环境的话，还是相对有更多的挑战。这些挑战来自于其实说的资金、需要的人才，还有其实大家对这件事情的耐心。其实大家都了解这个中国速度其实是非常快的。所以其实，在内容这本来是一个比较中长线的一个事情上来说的话，大家其实整体上还是会或多或少有一些缺乏耐心。在这点事情上，就作为我们中国的开发者来说，无形中还是挺羡慕从在北美或者是欧洲的这个团队来做这样的一个事情。但又说回来的话，我们其实接近的是全世界最大的一个人口红利，就这个人口是全世界最多最密集，实际上这2年经济提高也非常快。我们其实无数次在探索这个它存在可能存在性的这个商业模式，其实主要其实在中国尤其看的是线下会有最有成功的可能性，但其实看起来现在就是整体上还并没有形成足够多的规模。所以说其实我觉得今天这个问题特别好，就是我们遇到的问题是一个全球化的问题。就比方说这个Baobab遇到的问题是想去再进中国市场，其实包括我们自己其实也在思考如何真正的进入中国市场，如果真正的去让中国的消费者开始针对这个东西产生更多的付费，不管是单点付费还是 subscribe 这种的模式，如何去大家真正的来，如何提高自己本来的这个内容的生产的方式，如何让用户能更接受这种媒体形式，其实是所有内容生产者的一个巨大的挑战。就是其实我们在选择内容上，其实本来就所有的定位都是会更加题材选择上，其实我们都会比较注意全球化的选择，在风格上的话也会选择更全球化的一些风格，然后来让这件事情不要我们只针对中国市场来做，其实针对的是全球市场，但是我们又希望让中国的观众更有共鸣点。其实猎山市就是一个比较典型的这样的一个案例，它其实是一个中国非常传统的题材的项目，但我们希望我们的阐述的美术风格，它阐述的内容的形式，它甚至它表达的精神核心，其实也希望它更加的全球化一些，来面对和这个看有没有机会能拿到更多的这个市场的机会，大概是这样子。
Yep. Thank you for that. You talk about content creation, and maybe we'll shift into content a little bit now. I think there's many different ways I think that we all probably look at content, so I think this will be an interesting group of answers. And I'm curious, Aiden, you've developed a technology, so you look at it from a technology perspective, and you allow different levels and quality of people to create content. How do you look at the content creation cycle? How do you see your place in it? What do you think some of the challenges are and some of the opportunities are?
Yeah, I think two trends that I think to be the most important. One is the cost of producing content has been significantly dropped down. In 2013-14, when John started, the cost of the premium high-brand VR cameras being hundreds of thousands of dollars. That significantly dropped to thousands of dollars today, and for the consumer brand, it gets to hundreds of dollars. And we're seeing a lot of new content creators start to trying and playing with it, and the quality has been approaching the high end pretty fast. We're seeing the difference between the people who just started to create and the people who have been creating it for 3-5 years has been getting closer and closer. And that to me, I think is the biggest potential for this industry, is instead of creating so-called VR content creators, how can we convert all the existing content creators, the top brand, the premium content creators, the documentary creators into VR content? Because VR is, by itself just technology. I think it's super important to democratize this technology to everyone who want to create VR, and that's something we've been working on with this VR Academy that's just recently launched in English, Chinese, and Japanese. We want to help converting the creators in different industries, whoever are creating existing content and want to creating new form of VR content. The other trend that I see is very important is higher and higher quality of distribution online. As you probably all know that Oculus Go and Xiaomi ETG just recently released, get hundreds of thousands of shipment, and that number is fairly small compared to smartphone. But previously in Shenzhen, for example, that's much more than the entire year volume overall. So, and the retention and the number has been pretty amazing. And I've been thinking about this because I've been checking out the place where we do the offline demo, and it's very interesting to me because I've been lining up for your work, Lieshan Shi, and haven't got a chance to see it because everyone has been waiting there for 10, 15 minutes, and I feel probably everyone in this room get the same headache because the efficiency of offline distribution and giving people the opportunity to enjoy this experience is so inefficient to an extent that
it's frustrating to creators as well because we want obviously many people to see it as possible.
It is. So right now you have this compromise between distributing. For example, Baobab has been partnering with us for a long time. They have the 360 video version, and then they have the real-time render version. There's this compromise where if you compromise the interactivity and the resolution, then you have the 360 video, but you don't have that interactivity. I think the very biggest, but on the other side, you can instantly share to hundreds of millions of users on VR and Facebook and YouTube, so you get much more wow moments and social shout-outs. I think the difference between this online and offline are getting closer and closer as well, because 6 degrees of freedom standalone device getting shipped out later this year, more and more getting cheaper. And VR, for example, developed interactivities features that can equip our creators to create interesting, much higher engagement content as well. So I think the essence of VR, or the eventual goal, is to enable everyone to enjoy from the comfort of their home in their living room. So I think the other important trend is I think this opportunity for online distribution is getting larger and larger, and the demand has been stronger because Xiaomi, for example, when they putting these in the Xiaomi store, when people try it out, the first question they ask is, how can I create this content myself, right? And then they have the Xiaomi VR camera, and they handle out that you can actually create this, but then you need the distribution layer. So I think the distribution for online will be getting much more important because the more content people create, the more content in Xiaomi VR, and then the better it sells, and then the more people buying cameras. So you're seeing this cycle going on.
Yeah, no, I think that's great, and I think it'd be interesting to have Jonathan's answer too, because I think what you're doing is enabling prosumers and just VR enthusiasts to make content on one end of the spectrum. On the other end of the spectrum, you have a company like Baobab who has very well funded and makes really good content, very much on the highest level of fidelity. I'm curious how you guys look at content, look at deciding which stories you want to tell, which ones you want to embark on, and also I'm just curious, how many films do you have at once? How many do you plan on releasing per year? Do you go into that much detail and that much planning? Answer all those questions.
Yes. Yeah, we do a ton of planning, as you would expect. Historically, we've released Invasion in 2016, Asteroids in 2017. This year, we are going to have a very ambitious piece coming out at the end called Crow the Legend that stars John Legend and Oprah Winfrey. That's going to be north of over 20 minutes long, so we're increasing the length of our pieces. Invasion and Asteroids were 6 and 7 minutes long, respectively.
Is that based, sorry to interrupt, but is that based on data? Is that just because the story needs longer to tell?
The story is a more ambitious story. Yeah. And we also worked with our first external director, Matthias Kjellberg, on a location-based entertainment piece that premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. And we're trying to squeeze in another piece, though I'm not sure we'll be able to do it by the end of the year. So call that, we're increasing our pace count to more than one per year. And I think that really is important to just getting more content out there, but also experimenting with the different techniques, because we always talk about this as the storytelling kind of language, or the language of storytelling in film and television has been around for over 100 years and is well kind of tread, and it doesn't mean that innovations can't occur with creative new directors, but this language of immersive media is brand new, and it's a frameless environment, whether it's VR, whether it's AR, and so we want to work with great storytellers, and so our creative process is we have Eric Darnell is one of our co-founders. He wrote and directed the Madagascar movies when he was at DreamWorks, so he's a really unique guy who's able to both write and direct really impressive stories. But we've also opened up the aperture to work with very creative and like-minded individuals like Matthias to tell different stories, and so we want to be able to always focus on the narrative and the stories and the characters, and that's really what our creative process focuses on, which is very different than I think the commercial side, which is, hey, we've got a piece of IP, we've got some money, maybe a film coming out, so we want to create this piece, whereas we start with the story first and then go from there.
Yeah, I think that's, one of my business partners, Gabo Aurora, who's made some seminal VR pieces, he always says, this should be a moving story, just words on paper, with no technology whatsoever.
Eric will say that. He's like, if I have a great story, I can sell it with stick figures and pencil and paper.
Yeah.
And VR and AR enhances that, but it never is a substitute for a good story.
Yeah.
It's why South Park works. It's terrible animation, but you love the stories and you love the characters.
And Eric, what about yourself?
For me, the types of projects I'm looking to take on, I've been working with a couple of big authors who I'm hesitant to name, but we chose those novels, because the audience that might be attracted to them, but working with the authors, kind of as a sort of related note, I think there's been a profusion of short-form, like VR content. They're like 5-minute episodes, and I think to get someone to convince someone to spend $20 on something, I think you have to give them, a longer duration. Just simply put, whether that's one long experience or where we were going is more episodic. And so, a couple of the novels we are working on are conceived as essentially feature films cut up into episodic chunks, like 10-minute episodes, because we feel the consumer, at least in the States, is trained to spend $9.99 on a feature film on iTunes or whatever. And so not only does it perhaps guarantee some sort of return or audience willing to spend money, it also allows the creator to tell bigger stories, full arcs, full character arcs, full emotional arcs, and explore a world, particularly in VR, where you can actually literally create a world for the audience to explore. And so that tends to be sort of the lens now. It's got to be more than just a one-off little short film for us. It's got to have sort of legs to it or some sort of size to it that would lend to building that world, getting and pulling your audience into it, but then sort of justifying a cost at a price point at the end.
And are you developing original IP as well as working with outside, like the novelists you mentioned?
Yeah, there's some IP. Some is sort of derivative or inspired by existing IP, but is unencumbered. But it's kind of a blend of original and existing IP right now.
Yeah. All right, well, we're getting a little bit close to the end here, and we're going to do, I told you guys, some of you I wouldn't do this, but we're going to do it anyway, which is ask a few predictions, which everyone in VR is asked to do, and they're always wrong, but we're going to do it anyway, because it's fun. So, Aiden, 24 months from now, where do you see the market? How do you see the maturation from the technology and the content side?
Yeah, I think a few things are going to happen in the next 24 months. 5G network is going to be more popularized. Infrastructure building takes time. And then I think 2K, 4K, and even 8K standalone headsets are going to be much more available. I think 4K and probably 6K is kind of the bar where people are actually feeling strong engagement inside video, for instance. And I think the number of high-quality content are going to explode because of the much accessible cameras and people who jump into this world. I think this is very similar as 2008, where if you remember, before 2008, there are a number of smartphones like HTC in the early days, and then there Nokia, the Sabian, their Windows phone, and then 2008 2008, where is the time that iPhone 3G comes and is the first phone that sells for several millions and quickly getting to 10 million and tens of millions. And if you're looking at the cycle, it's about 10 years each from 1998 to 1920 to 2008, where there's this new platform, Facebook, Google built on web, and then there is this Uber, Snapchat, Didi, and Toutiao built on mobile. And I think this is a starting point where 2008, I think Oculus Go, if you look at the numbers and kind of the engagement right now, I feel it's kind of the first iPhone kind of product. And I think with 24 months, it's going to get into tens of millions of these. I think next year will be very interesting because you're seeing a lot of new standalone. I'm actually a big believer of standalone device. I think PC's number is going to keep decreasing. I think it's the only way that this industry is going to take off.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And as Ted said, I mean, just the Oculus Go has been so liberating to use as a device. Limini, what about yourself? 24 months from now, where do you see things?
就是整个对行业来说的话，其实这1年多，我们其实这个 Pinta Studios 现在到今天为止，应该是刚刚2年的时间。在这2年的时间里头，我们先回顾过去2年啊，就过去2年，我们感觉到从非常多内容出现，就每天有很多很多内容，周围很多朋友都在说做的新的内容的时候，到其实今年来看的话，我觉得内容是大幅度的减少的同时，看到的所有内容的质量都在大幅度的提升，就这是一个非常有趣的现象，叫市场理性化。就其实真正的就是叫有决心的人才在继续在这个市场来。就其实这也就是相当于是说我们自己对这个市场的这个具体的看法。像 Pinta 其实在这3个项目里头，其实我们现在正在做第3个项目。第一个项目其实是当时我们选择这个行业，其实 Dream Cracker 讲的是坚持梦想。就其实我们觉得这做一件有情怀的事情是一个非常有意义的事儿。第2件事情，其实我们说这个猎山市，其实它讲的是自我超越，就像我们希望在超越自己。第3个项目其实讲的是孤独，并不是讲独孤求败，而是其实讲的是我们还希望在这个战场上继续坚持。其实这3个故事，就是尤其第3个故事，我们更多的考虑到了用通过更多的 VR 有些交互的手法，甚至其实我们可能也会有 AR 的版本出来，让大家能更加便捷的去感受到我们想传递的故事。讲到未来这2年的话，其实我自己尤其是今年非常深刻的感受到，就是今年的 VR 大家不再强调从单纯的一些沉浸化的视觉体验开始，而更多的其实引入了很多有趣的技术。比方说，其实我觉得叫 Wolf in the Wall 的话，其实做的很多的 AI 的这个尝试，也是给我们有很大的这个启发。然后是怎么样子通过真正的 VR 加上一些沉浸感的东西，让这个故事表达得更加立体，让你跟这里头的角色更加接近。这其实对于整个行业，其实我就发现有更多的人在这个领域，在这些区块里头开始有新的探索。所以对于纯的内容产生的行业来看的话，我觉得未来2年一定会有更多的有趣的、更适合 VR 这个媒体，或者说它这个在 VR 这个媒体有更好表现的这些内容，逐步的在出现，让更多的人更能感受到 VR 这种媒体给大家造成的这种冲击感。对于整个行业来说，我觉得其实今年从我自己跟很多线下合作伙伴的这个合作的感觉上来说，我觉得有一个非常大的一个前进，就是其实前2年的线下的合作伙伴都非常回避谈钱这件事情，大体上是说我们有渠道，你们来不来？今年大概说，我们今年在做预算，要不要让大家来尝试一下？这个转变其实我觉得对于行业是一个根深蒂固的转变，就其实真正的对于在一段时间里不知道怎么选内容，到其实是对很多认真做内容的合作伙伴或者内容公司的话，有更多的这种合作的意向跟决心的时候，我觉得其实内容的团队也会更多的出现。这反过来说回来，其实实际上内容线下运营或者是其实包括一些线上运营，也因为内容的积累和自己的经验，使得这件事情更加的有商业可持续性的这种创造。所以说其实就是2方面，一方面就是大家越来越在尝试了一个更适合 这种媒体的视听语言或者是表达方式。另一方面，其实商业的这个环境环节的话，其实在从底层，在最接近用户的底层，逐步在落实靠谱，有预算、有现金、其实才能让这个循环起来。所以我其实对未来几年的这个增长趋势或者是商业机会的话，还是非常持续看好的。
Okay, 2 years, more money. How about that? More money. What about you guys? We only have a couple more minutes left, but any quick predictions?
Quick predictions. I think in the near term, maybe it's not a great prediction, but I think there's going to be a continued contraction, I think, on some of the financing. But I think the sort of bright lights on the horizon, I think a lot of the technology is maturing faster than a lot of us thought it would. I've been an advocate, I've been saying for years that I think we need like version 5 of the hardware before it goes mainstream, and I think we're kind of at version 2 or 3 right now, depending on how you count it. But Vive Pro is amazing, Oculus Go is amazing, so I think that is going to drive further awareness. But I actually think the brightest spot, and this doesn't get enough attention, I think, is that PlayStation's at 3 million headsets now.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Let's hope Xbox decides to do a 180 again and launch VR.
Because I think what we're really missing is, at least in the States, is just a general awareness. And I think PlayStation has that brand awareness, and they're going to get out there and they're just going to get it in homes. And so 3 million units from PlayStation is great. So I just feel like that's going to keep going wonderfully.
Jonathan.
Quick 50-second prediction. That's a great question, but I'm going to go for more 5 years. I think we're going to consolidate to 3 platforms. If you looked at like PCs, it's been a duopoly, Windows and iOS. You look at mobile, it's been Android and iOS, another duopoly. I look at it because it's AR, MR, VR. I think we're going to end up with a triopoly. That's my prediction.
And who are the 3?
You'll have to buy me a beer to get that out of me.
Done. All right, I think that's just about all the time for us. Please, thank you for your time, and please give a round of applause to my esteemed panel. Thank you.